Okay, let's talk about law school. There was a recent comment question about law school, my experience, kind of how to prepare for after law school, what it was like. And I don't always think to talk about law school because I went to law school so long ago. Your girl is almost 42 now. And so it's been a number of years, but I can kind of think back and remember kind of what it was like and kind of give you my experiences and my tips, some things not to do. So that's what we're going to kind of cover today and go over. So I went to law school from '06 to '09. So it's been a little while. We're going on 17 years now that I've been a lawyer. And so, but when I went to law school, I went straight through from high school, college to law school. I didn't take any breaks. There was no gaps. I graduated high school in '02. Some of you may have been born around '02, but that's when I graduated high school. Went to Seattle U for my undergrad, graduated there in '06, then went to Seattle U for law school, also from '06 to '09. And so I went straight through. And let's start with kind of like my top two tips for law school. I have a number of tips, so maybe we can do that separately, but I kind of want to talk about kind of my biggest takeaways. And so I was pretty involved in my law school. I was the president of my BOLSA organization, the Black Law Student Association. I was pretty involved in activities at school, but I think my biggest two tips would be make sure you get real work experience while you're in law school, because the saying is true. Like when you come out of law school, you don't know a damn thing about how to be a lawyer. You know how to research, you know how to write, which I will say with that, and I think at the time, my law school had either the number one or one of the top legal writing programs in the country, right? And legal writing was just never my strong suit. I cannot ever get higher than a B in that class. And I think I'm pretty good, with grammar and I don't know, your commas, your apostrophes, your semicolons. I know how to use all those things, but I could not for the life of me get higher than a B in that legal writing class. And I remember meeting with my professor, after hours, multiple times, trying to figure out, I just could not grasp or comprehend what I needed to do to improve. So I finally got to a point where it's you know what? I'm not going to beat myself up over this. I'm just going to take the beat and just keep it moving. I cannot spend this much extra time trying to figure out how to get an A in this class because for the life of me, I can't figure it out. But anyway, so you come out of law school knowing how to write, knowing how to research. You don't know how to be a lawyer. You need to get real work experience while you're in law school. Even your 1L summer, you need to be doing that. And so that is priority number one. And then priority number two, my top two tip would be to meet people. So if you're like me and you're an introvert, this is going to be tough for you, but you have to do it. So I'm talking about people in the law school, but also my law school had a number of events where they would bring lawyers onto campus, and it'd be evening events and things like that. As much as you may not want to go to those and go back to your law school at 7 p.m. for an event or whatever it may be, you need to be doing that. You need to be meeting as many people as possible. That is so important. I have connections that I made in law school that I still maintain to this day. When I was in law school also, we had the Women's Law Caucus, and they actually partnered us up with a mentor. In my 1L year, I think my mentor was a 3L, Taryn. And I don't talk to her a lot now, but when I started practicing, there were times that we would actually work together. We taught a CLE together. To have somebody in law school who was a 3L that I could go to with those questions, and then to be able to have her as a colleague when I was practicing. And she's kind of changed different jobs and stuff, so our practices don't overlap like they used to. We both did quite a bit of bankruptcy at the time earlier on in my career. And so, but making sure you're meeting people, other students, and then going to the events that they have in the evenings to meet lawyers and other people in the profession. You need to get as much contact with the actual legal world outside of just law school as much as you can. But also with your students, because those colleagues, those people in your 1L class, your 1L property class, your contracts class, your 2L classes, 3L, those are going to be your colleagues. Like some of my colleagues that I was in law school with, like some of them are judges, right? Like these are people you're actually going, it's not going to be like you finish law school and you never see them again. Like no, a number of people you're actually going to deal with in real life. And I have like a number of attorneys that I went to law school with that I have, run into, I've worked with, I've contacted, for various reasons. Like it really is a small world, especially if you plan to stay in the same kind of geographic area where you're going to law school. Now, for some of you, you might be moving across the country or things like that, so it may not apply as much. But if you plan to stay in the same state or even the same like city or county or whatnot as where you're going to law school right now, make sure you are meeting other people and joining the different clubs and activities and doing the moot court or whatever to like meet other students. And if you're introverted, again, you're going to have to make that conscious effort to really put yourself out there. So I talked about working, and I think working is so important because you need that real life experience. And so I had a number of jobs when I was in law school. So I figured let me just kind of go through the jobs that I had while I was in law school. So my 1L summer, I found myself working for pay. Like I got paid for this job at a small family law firm. It was a solo, so it was really small. It was a solo who did family law, but she had like an office share with 3 other attorneys. So it was 4 attorneys in total. 3 of them did family law and 1 of them did immigration. So she is the one who hired me, and I worked primarily for her. But then I would do like a little bit things here and there for the other attorneys. It was a really great setup. Like for the solos, all 4 of them were solos. And they all did their own thing, but they shared the overhead expense of the physical office. It was a really cute office in the Seattle area. And what is so funny, so I never had an interest to do family law, but I ended up just connecting with her. She was hiring. I won the job. And again, at this point in time, I had never planned to be a solo, but I wanted to get some experience, and she had a job and hired me. One of my tasks at this job, so she did family law, and I don't remember the details of the case, but she must have represented the father of a child. It was like a custody dispute. And so one of my tasks at this firm for this one case was to like go through Craigslist ads looking for her ads, because I'll tread lightly here, but she had ads selling her services on Craigslist, and it was my job to go find those ads that were going to be used in that custody dispute. Now we're not going to discuss like the strategy there and what all went in. And I wasn't super involved in that case, but that was just one of the tasks that I had that I will like never forget doing that. Like it was just like, it was the craziest thing. But I got to see how a solo actually operates and what it looks like and what their office looks like and how they do everything. Like they had no paralegals, there were no legal assistants, there weren't like virtual receptionists back then, I don't think. Like I was doing kind of all those things in my summer work for them and for her primarily. And to actually see clients come into the office firsthand who needed help, right? Like for a lot of our practice areas, and especially family law, like people are kind of going through probably like one of the worst times in their lives, right? And just seeing how she worked with clients and kind of navigated those difficult times and helped those clients. And so that part was really invaluable for me to kind of see that, because you don't learn that in law school. Maybe now in law school, they kind of teach you like how to deal with clients and how to kind of navigate those kind of situations, but they didn't back then when I went to law school. And that was my biggest takeaway, is like seeing how that worked. And even though I saw that, I still didn't have plans to go solo, but I had an appreciation for like what that looked like and working in a law firm where you actually have real clients, right? So, okay, that was my 1L summer. I also got married in my 1L summer. So yeah, I told you I'm almost 42. I've been married, 18 years, going on 19 years this year. I've been married quite a while. I got married that summer also, and I had like a week off for the wedding and honeymoon. But otherwise, I worked that whole summer at that family law firm. Okay, then 2L year, I did not work in my 2L year. They did this thing. I don't know if they still do it. It was called OCI. It was on campus interviews. It was like this huge ordeal for all the 2Ls. I don't know if they still do it this way. It was a lot of pressure. And so where these big firms and different entities would come to the law school and do interviews on the campus to find their 2L summer associates or summer interns, or I don't know. They're paid jobs, but I don't know if they're called summer associates. I don't know what it was called. And so you would do like these rounds and rounds of interviews on campus at the law school with these different firms. And what they used to do is that they would post like who made it through round one, who made it through round two. Like they would post that outside the library at the law school so everybody could see like who made it. Your girl did make it through, so made it through the different rounds of OCI. I did not get on, like a big firm didn't extend an offer to me. I don't think I was ever cut out for a big firm. I just don't think that like I'm not their vibe and they're not my vibe. So I think it worked out for the best because a lot of people, a lot of law students wanted to get on in the big firm because they paid the big dollars, right? Like you got like at the time, like I don't remember how much they were paying for the summer associates for the 2Ls. I think it was like $15,000. I could be making that up. I think it was some like when you're in law school and you have no money, and this is again almost 20 years ago, like getting 15 grand for a summer job. I forget if it was that much, but it probably was somewhere around there. Was like everybody one of those jobs, right? I did not get one of those jobs, but I did get an offer from the prosecutor's office, and a number of colleagues went to the prosecutor's office. And so the deal was like, you work there your 2L summer, and then they extend an offer to you when you graduate after your 3L year, because you did your 2L summer, then you go into your 3L year and wrap that up, and then you come on board as an actual hired attorney once you graduated and passed the bar. And so this was in 2008. And so what happened at that time is that the market crashed. It totally collapsed. And so I had my summer job there. And when you are a 2L, at least in Washington State, you have like a limited license to practice law. And so I could do like, I did like, I think 4 trials in my summer. Like I had a full arraignment calendar of like, I don't know, 50, 60 cases in an arraignment for a morning. I was doing like from start to finish, like the actual work of an attorney, my 2L summer. And what I liked about that is that it was so fast paced, right? Like you have so many cases. Like I didn't have the client experience like in that job because your client is the government, right? And there it's like, yes, you want to win your cases, but win or lose, like you're just on to the next case because you've got hundreds of cases waiting for you the next day, right? So it's not the same pressure as like a family law firm where like if you lose a case, like it is significant for that client. And again, I'm not trying to minimize the work that you do as a government attorney, but just acknowledging that if you don't have that actual client, like your client is the government, so and you have such a high volume of cases that you're getting through, like you just keep going, right? And so I appreciated how fast paced it was because in a family law practice or a real estate practice or whatnot, like your client is your client for a long time sometimes, right? It's just like a divorce can go on for a year, 2 years, right? So at the prosecutor's office, it's very fast paced. Like you're just on to the next one over every day. It's a whole new stack of cases that you have to get through. So that was my experience. So I left there and went to the AG's office. I left there primarily because they made it pretty clear, like, we can't hire any of you on when you graduate because of the market crash. Like, we have a budget freeze, so it's not going to happen. So I was like, oh, well, damn, like, I'm not going to stick around here. I'm not going to get hired. Then I was at the AG's office, which is also a government entity, so that didn't make any sense for me, but I got some more experience. I worked in the L&I department, more administrative work, not as hands-on. I was never in court for those. It was all like administrative stuff, and so I had less hands-on like lawyer experience. I did quite a bit of research and stuff, but those are things that you do in law school, right? Also, so good experience, met some great people there. And so I did like a semester or a quarter, one of the two there while during my 3L year, but then left also because like I'm not gonna get hired on, budget freeze, markets in the trash right now, right? And then after I finished law school, I ended up, and I've shared with you before, how I was at like a small law firm doing real estate and estate planning stuff. I learned bankruptcy there because our real estate clients were losing their homes in the market crash. So I was at that small firm for 7 years, went out on my own in 2016. Okay, so that's kind of like my legal career and what that looked like. I didn't do any clinics in law school, but I had enough work experience at the family law firm, the prosecutor's office, the AG's office, where I think that's okay. But if your law school does clinic work, that might be a good option for you as well to get some more experience. Now, that might not be paid. That might be for credit, possibly. So the jobs that I had, let's see, the family law firm I got paid for, the prosecutor's office got paid for, the AG's office, I think I did that for credit. So depending on kind of what your financials are, you may or may not need a job that actually pays you. So that's kind of what I did. And I just think there was so much value that I got from those jobs that I would have never received in law school. And so I just think like you have to get work experience while you're in law school. You have to experience what it's like, especially if you think you might know what practice area you want to go into. You want to see what it's actually like to do that kind of work and to work with those clients and what, those lawyers' days, what that actually looks like, right? Because you're not going to get that aside from actually doing the work. Like you can even go to a class where they're talking about how to deal with clients, but until you actually do it, until you have a client in front of you whose world has fallen apart and they're falling apart and they're, bawling in your office crying, like you've got your lawyer hat on, but then you're also like you're not there, I don't know, like counselor or therapist, right? But there is a little bit of that comes with lawyering, especially if you are working one-on-one with clients or a consumer-facing practice, right? You're going to have to learn how to manage those things and how to do some damage control and how to hold your client's hand. And then also how to communicate with clients in a way that's effective. Sometimes you don't have good news to give your client, right? And learning how to deliver that news and how to explain things to them and how to do some from a place of you caring and having compassion for them and that they know and understand that you have their best interest and you're going to do everything you can to fight for them. Like that is definitely a skill. And I've had some colleagues as an attorney where I'm like, they are really good at handling clients. And I have learned from them like, okay, and that's where you need to have your people. Because I've had times where I've called some colleagues that I know and trust, like, okay, I've got to deliver such and such news to a client. Like, what do you think about how do I approach this? How do I say this? How do I explain this? Like, and so I have learned from some really good attorneys on how to just communicate effectively to your clients, how to build trusting relationships with your clients because they are hiring you and they are trusting you to help them with a certain issue, right? So how do you navigate that? How do you help them? How do you show up as the best attorney for them? And so when you're taking on these jobs and signing up for things, you want to be open to jobs that may not be in a practice area that you thought you wanted to do. You want to experience those things, try new jobs, and just be open to opportunities that might come your way to be able to really have a well-rounded law school experience. And now some of you may want to go solo. Some of you may not want to. Some of you, maybe you don't know what you want to do. That's all the more reason to try out different jobs, different externships, different clinics, and to really get that experience under your belt to kind of help you figure out what you do want to do. If you think you do know what you want to do, that's also a great reason to go out and get the experience in that field so you can kind of see what it's really like and what it's like to do that type of work, what those attorneys' lives look like, what the client work looks like, what the legal process looks like, right? I mean, you won't have an appreciation for what that looks like until you actually do it. And so If you think you might want to go solo, or that might be of interest to you in your future, I'd invite you to stick around, have you subscribe so you can kind of see. That's what we talk about here on how to, open a law firm, how to manage your law firm, how to grow your law firm, how to juggle being a lawyer, being a business owner of a law firm, and also like parenthood and family and taking care of yourself and being a priority in your own life. So I'd love to have you stick around. If this video was helpful, I would appreciate a like, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.